just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 276. Mike Seglia, Alex Denesowitz, and Mikal Bridges has signed and re-signed his contract with the New York Knicks. 4 years, $150 million. Cam Thomas still in no man's land with the Nets as time goes by on that. Alex, good evening. How are you? I'll say this. This is not an emergency podcast. We're just recording in our scheduled slate. But we got a text message from our friend Corey in a group chat, and he was saying, like, emergency pod, Mikal signed. And maybe it's me, and you're the Knick fan. You know, he's not on my team, but this didn't really move the needle in a sense. I was just like, okay, like, the Knicks really didn't have any other options. Of course he's going to re-sign, right? Like, did I miss something?
Well, hello. How are you? Thank you. I'm good. There's two things. Number one, he took $6 million less, so the Knicks can stay under the second apron. They still would be in the second apron if they re-sign Mitchell Robinson and extend him. So that's difficult. But Bobby Marks said you can go into the second apron for like a year and it won't kill you. But
right,
whatever. So then you can manipulate in 3 years from now. But then you got to re-sign Jalen Brunson. So it's just everything's a mess. So it feels like something else is going to happen at some point. Maybe not this year. But it's all in one more year. But if Mikal waited another year and just played out his year, or the Knicks wanted to, then he could sign up to about $200 million for 5 years.
290, I think it's.
Did I say 200? Yeah, $290 million is what I meant to say. Sorry, I'm tired. And it's the right move. And I think as long as Mikal Bridges is on the Knicks, it has to do with the Nets. The Nets are connected to it in some way. It was the trade. It's about your draft picks. You say it all the time. You want the Knicks to lose because you want the better draft picks. So, of course, you're going to want the Knicks to lose more than just your usual jealousy or hate of the Knicks. It's more of that.
Don't say jealous.
You hate you. It helps you. You'll be rooting against, like,
of course,
like the Knicks this year. I'm going to be a big Wizards fan because the Knicks have their protected first round pick. It's like 7 and below would be a Knicks pick or something like that.
Right.
Or 8 and below, whatever it is.
I get you. No,
so
agree.
I'm going to be a big Wizards fan this year because I want them to fall or just be decent enough that they may not fall into the top 6 or 7, So it has something to do with the Nets in that way. And it's just been a connection, like with the Knicks and Durant and Kyrie. You had the connection of signing with the Knicks. They signed with the Nets for whatever reason. And for those years, the Knicks hated the Nets. And it just is what it is.
I just don't know what other to me, it was inevitable that he's going to re-sign there. I mean, the Knicks.
Well, Giannis was also the other option this offseason.
Well,
you can't trade for him now.
Well, when the Knicks traded their picks to the Nets, they lost a lot of flexibility in having an opportunity to get Giannis. And I've said this on the Bad Weather Fans podcast. Check out previous episodes. The Mikal trade to me wasn't horrible because of all the picks they gave up. It was horrible because they couldn't give up those picks again for other guys. That's where I think the problem ensued. Like, I'm convinced that if this offseason happens and the Knicks have so much more flexibility with 5 first-round draft picks, there's an opportunity to grab a Giannis Antetokounmpo. But when they dealt him to the Nets, they lost a lot of their trade assets that they could get a superstar in here. So that, to me, was a big problem from the Knicks standpoint of making the trade. And now at this point, you traded for Mikal. You gave up all of those assets. You gave up 5 first-round picks, 2 of which now become Brooklyn Nets. Like, of course you're going to re-sign him. If he walks, one, he's a good basketball player. He helps your team. Why would you trade 5 first-round draft picks and then not re-sign him? Would be lunacy. You want to get in the minutia of, well, he accepted $6 million less. That's a good move. It helps the Knicks. But of course he was going to re-sign. What else was going to happen? He was going to leave? After all that, he was gone from 1 year and they traded 5 picks? And he's no trade value to other teams. Other teams that would want him are other contenders. So that means they're going to give up other good players, which they're not going to do. This is the relationship that they're in. You want to get into the small details of 156, 150? Like, no shit, Mikal was going to re-sign. I think this was inevitable. And for the Knicks to want to go ahead and win a championship, they had to do this. Like, I'm not stupid enough to sit here and say, oh my God, they gave him 4 years, $150 million. That's the market for the player that he is. It sounds like a lot of money, but that's what it's 37.5 over 4. Is it a little overpaid? Maybe, but that's the value for guys in that realm of play. It's just today's NBA. Like, some guys are getting 60, 70 million. So Mikel's going to get 30. It sounds crazy. I understand that.
But it
Maybe
is
a
what it
slight
is.
overplay, but that is what it is. It's like when NFL quarterbacks sign. I gave that guy. Yeah, you have no choice. So this is
Right. And
they're
NFL's
stuck
different.
with
It's
this. They're stuck.
non-guaranteed. Yeah.
Good or bad, whatever happens with Mikel, the Knicks had no other plan once they made that trade. This was inevitable. I'm sorry, but like to me, this is not news. Like we'll
Well,
talk
it's
about
news.
it,
It's a
but
big
it isn't.
deal. It is a big deal. And next year, to your point, I looked it up before. Next year at this time, where everything is slated now, before all the extensions or signings for next offseason hit, obviously he'll drop, but he's around 37th or 38th overall. It hasn't kicked it on Basketball Reference because it's not official yet.
Sure.
But he'll be around 37th, 38th, highest paid player in the NBA, and then with other signings next offseason, I'm sure he'll drop down to the 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
So that's 50th best player in the NBA is Mikal Bridges. I mean, that's pretty close. I mean, plus you're not taking into account the fact that all the rookies and guys who are better than him, like Wemby or maybe Flag or all these other guys, like they're not paid yet. So it's pretty relevant for where he is. I do think it's a big deal. I disagree with that. I think it's a big deal because of the connection. I think it's also a big deal when they signed him before some deadline in the CBA where now they can trade him at the deadline. So they could deal him in the middle of the season if that happens. And they also maybe they choose Mitchell Robinson and they trade Mikal Bridges in the middle of the season and get something for him, and then whatever happens there, who knows? We got to see how it plays out. But Mikal Bridges, two things: he earned this contract with those two plays in the Celtics in Game 1 and Game 2, the defensive plays that won those games at the end of the game.
How?
Those were two of the most incredible defensive plays I've ever seen.
How did he earn the contract from those plays?
I think he just earned the contract from that because if he doesn't play well in the playoffs and doesn't have those big moments in the playoffs, why would the Knicks want to extend him? Just let him play out his contract and see how he does next year, and then figure it out then. You know what I mean? Why would you invest more into a guy that has proven to be let's say the Knicks think it's a depreciated asset, right? You traded all these players for this guy and these picks for this guy, and he's not the player you thought you were getting. You don't now double down just because you made this big trade if you deem the asset is depreciated. You now have to just cut your losses. The teams that don't cut their losses or make moves just because you made another trade in the past that wasn't right, or those are the people that get fired and build an organization that doesn't win. You know what I mean? You have to do what's best for your team at all times and put your ego to the side. So making plays in the playoffs and those big moments that he did, and there were a lot of bad moments in the playoffs that I was pissed at him. He was scared to shoot. There was a couple times he didn't come up big. Sure. But those two big defensive plays, which are two of the biggest defensive plays in Knicks history, and just in the clutch moment to clinch a game 1 and Game 2 on the road against the unbeatable champion Celtics. Like we look at the Celtics like big deal, but they were unbeatable, the defending champs, and they won 2 in Boston with 2 clinched, Mikal Bridges pulling the ball out of Jaylen Brown's hands in the Game 1 and then knocking the ball away from Tatum in Game 2. You know what I mean? Without those plays, they might not win those games. And then what are we even doing? And on top of all that, it also shows how much of a players' league this is. About 4.5 months ago, Mikal Bridges calls out Thibs for too many minutes and not playing the bench and this and that and the other thing. And you fast forward, Mikal Bridges gets an extension and Thibs is fired. So when a team is chirping about a coach, we have to just stop acting like the coach has any power. It's all about the players. Once a team is calling out a coach publicly, it's over. And that's just what it is.
To your point about him playing super well in that Celtics series, agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
The moments in Knicks history, what he did, all of that is true. I don't think it had any impact on what the Knicks were going to sign him or not sign him. I think if he had just a ho-hum playoff, they're still in the same position and he's getting the same contract. I don't think it made a difference.
We'll never know, I guess, but I disagree.
Think they had no options. They had no choices.
See, that's the thing we disagree on. They had options. If he stinks and he wasn't good and he was just like this average player who was scared to shoot and didn't make any big plays, why do you keep the guy just because you made a big trade? That's stupid.
Well,
that's just bad business.
Well, I would say then if you're going to base it on that, because if there was a lot of bad and we're kind of hiding it right now, then you're still making a mistake now. If you're basing it on those 2 plays, I would say they're outliers based on all of the other things you saw from him and how bad he was in the Pacers series. Hanging your hat on just those 2 plays would scare me if that's how the organization viewed to pay him.
It's not just those in a silo. Those are like the biggest plays in his stamped plays that, stamped, like he had other moments throughout the season. A game winner in Portland. He had a couple other big plays when he blocked Vucevic at the buzzer in the regular season. He had a lot of big plays throughout the season, and he had a couple stretches where he was playing really well, but he also had a lot and more that were bad. And he was a fourth option. You know what I'm saying? So like he, and it took a while to get acclimated. And also the Towns trade, I think, threw them completely off, right before training camp, because they're coming in with the Villanova 4, and then all of a sudden, his role, and all of a sudden it's all different. You know what I mean? So who knows? But now we're going into this season. Everybody's locked up for the Knicks. You have a new coach in there who's an offensive coach, and everybody's locked up. I'm ready.
No, as they should. I mean, they're ready. The weak Eastern Conference, and the Knicks are, two of the top favorites, them and the Cavs, now to get out of the East. I agree as well with what you had said about Mikal, and it's a players' league. I do think that he was the voice for the rest of the team. I would be stunned if this was Mikal doing that on his own. Like Mikal's like, hey, this is how I feel. I have not talked to any of my friends. I'm just going to voice my opinion.
He fell on the sword for the team. Yeah, he fell on the sword for the team.
Right. And based on honestly, like after I saw when he went on the Roommates podcast and he ripped his own fan base, and
when he was still on the Nets,
when he was still on the Nets, his own teammates,
and the crowd,
they were making fun of Cam Thomas in that. Like there is no doubt in my mind that Mikal is the third friend in that group that when they say do it, you do it. And I am convinced, just like in the Roommates podcast, when they peer pressured him to be an asshole about the Nets, that he got peer pressured to talk about Tom Thibodeau, and the same thing happened. And that's just the relationship. When you got three best friends, sometimes one of them is not really part of that group, and I could feel it there.
You never know. I mean, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that we needed somebody to step up and take the bullet, like, publicly, and Mikal's already like getting shitted on, and like, what, it won't hurt his reputation to go out there and take the bullet, and he just stood up and said, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Towns can't do it. Deuce McBride's not a big enough player to do it. Mitchell Robinson's still injured or working his way back, and he was playing probably at the time. Brunson can't do it. That's his like uncle. You know what I mean? Hart can't do it. That's his boy. So it really was Mikal Bridges is the only guy to do it. OG Anunoby's not going to do it. He's not that kind of guy.
So the speech that you're giving right now is the exact speech that they gave to him. Hey, man, he can't do it. This is why. I can't do it.
Right, but you're saying it in I get it, but you're saying it in like they instructed it. They said you have to do it. Maybe he said, "Fuck it, I'll do it." I got it. Maybe he stood up and said, "I want to do it." You know what I'm saying?
I think the way you posed it is a perfect explanation on how he was manipulated.
Well, that's your opinion. Yeah, that's fine.
Of course it is.
But in my opinion is that it could also be the other way. It could also be the other way of that he decided to, and was being a leader and said, "I'll step up and take one for the team." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is it the other way? You just want to look at it negative because you hate him. That's all it is. You hate the Knicks, so you want to be negative about it and turn it into a negative.
I don't think he's a leader. So in my viewpoint, I think he was manipulated and didn't lead and was instructed. That's just
to be fair. At the time, I didn't like it because I didn't see the point of it. You're rolling towards the playoffs. Everything's going fine publicly, at least. Why drop this bomb on the media? Like, why? Like, what was the point of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't understand, but maybe it just got so bad that they had no choice and somebody had to say something, and he did, for the locker room. You know what I mean? And that's a leader. That's something a leader would do.
We have a different viewpoint on that. We just do. They're human beings. They got to a boiling point and they couldn't take it anymore. And right or wrong, how they went and did it, they had an opinion on it, and they wanted to voice their opinion on it, and they took it to the media, and it was calculated. Yeah. And there's no, we both agree that it wasn't just Mikal in a silo doing it himself.
Said, hey, I want to do it. No.
You think that he was being a leader and stepping up as a voice for the rest
I'm
of the
saying
team?
He could have been. I don't know for sure. I'm just saying he could have been. You just assuming that he's just a little bitch and was told to do it, go in there and do it. You have no choice. I don't know that for a fact, but I also don't know that he's the one. I'm saying it could have been either way. You know what I'm saying? You're saying without a shadow of a doubt, it's something. You weren't there.
Just based on personalities, based on what I saw, to me, it was, hey man, we're going to manipulate you to do this. You're the third wheel in this friendship. We're gonna figure out a way to get you to say this.
Or it's like I've said in a previous episode, everybody had their role in that Villanova friend group. Dante DiVincenzo was the tough guy, Jalen Brunson was the star, Josh Hart was the clown. Ryan Archie and Docketo, whatever his name is it was the dork and the
So then what's
smart one,
Mikal?
and Mikal was the bitch. So that's what it was. I get it. Mikal was the guy that everybody made fun of, and I get it, and that's why it makes sense what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't think, without a shadow of a doubt, you're right. Maybe Mikal is older now and said, you know what, I'll take one for the team. My reputation already sucks. Let me go ahead and do this and save everybody else's reputation. I don't know.
Yeah, but at the time it was interesting because I don't know if everybody like agreed with that stance from him, and we're like,
Mhm.
Mikal, how he went about getting to that point, right or wrong. Oh,
Right.
Mikal, good move, good bad move. There's people that disagree. Like you said, you disagreed with it.
Yeah, I did.
You
I didn't like
disagreed
it.
with him taking
Yeah.
it to the media, and I know when Josh Hart was fighting with the former head coach of the Knicks, Thibodeau, on the bench. We looked at it like, oh, it's just two people that are passionate, which I agree. But there's also read between the lines. Like there was probably anger, and when you're
Hmm.
angry at somebody, you yell, like, and
Yeah.
it surfaced.
And the very next day, or maybe it was the day of it, it's because I'm looking at a newspaper clipping of it, and the clipping, the front page, and it says March 12th, and March 12th is also the same. Oh no, yeah, it's the next day. So the next day that after this, no, it's March 13th is when the newspaper is, and March 12th is when this game was when Mikal Bridges hit the
It was the
game winner
Blazers
in
game.
Portland. Yeah,
Yeah,
so like maybe it was. So it makes sense because it's a West Coast game. So maybe the 13th was the paper, but it was late. So like it's not going to be on the cover. The Blazers game's not going to be on the cover because it was in Portland, right? So then maybe the comments happened on the 12th. So then yeah, it was right before that game, and then he hit the game winner in Portland. That makes sense. So maybe that's what happened. If
and
I'm
he was
wrong,
taking a
whatever.
lot of shit. Like
Yeah, he needed that.
he was playing. He was
But
playing really
nobody even
bad.
saw that game winner
Well,
because it was
Brunson
middle of the night.
and Brunson was hurt. Remember, Brunson was
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah, he was out. Yeah. He
So
played well in games when he was the second or third option. I mean, it's hard to be a fourth option when you've never been that in your career. I'm not going to get into the whole Mikal Bridges thing we've discussed too much over the season,
yeah, no,
but
he's
yeah,
a superstar role player. I don't know.
yeah. And the theory also, last thing before we get to Cam Thomas and the Nets, like I just want to get this in here. Everybody's taken less on the Knicks that has resigned. Josh Hart opted out, so he can opt in and take a little less.
Yeah,
Jalen Brunson took less. Mikal Bridges took less. The only one who did not take less is OG Anunoby. And that just proves the theory and the report. I don't know if it was a report or just a theory that they had to pay OG Anunoby a max deal because he got blindsided by the Mikal Bridges trade because that's his position. And they're like, we can't lose you because we traded RJ and quickly two fan favorites for you and we won a lot of games. We need you because you're awesome. So now we have to pay you the max because we traded from Mikal Bridges. So it could have been a twofold kind of a thing that like a ripple, trickle down effect there. So I don't know what you think about that.
would you trade Mikal for Cam Thomas
No, no.
because
Mikal has proved to be too good in
versatility?
defense. Yeah, he's Cam Thomas is awesome, and he's got a star. He's a star in the making, in my opinion, offensively. I mean, who cares about defense? I mean, Trae Young plays no defense. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean?
Jalen Brunson doesn't play
Jalen Brunson
defense.
doesn't play defense. It doesn't matter. When people say, "Oh, he doesn't play any defense," just they have nothing to say about a player, and they just want to criticize the guy. There's very few two-way players in the NBA, and you can probably count them on two hands.
I feel bad for Cam Thomas because I really think he's gotten a raw deal, not just with this contract thing, but the way the
Yeah.
Nets have utilized him as a pro.
Mhm.
I think he's really gotten not a fair opportunity. I
Agreed.
mean, early on when he was there, it was his rookie year, and that was, when the Nets had stars. I get it. They're going for a title. He had a crazy great summer league. He was amazing. But
Mhm.
then, the part that's really frustrating when you look back on it, and Jacques Vaughn's the head coach, and Kyrie's traded, Durant's traded, Cam scores he's got these like multiple 50-point games. It's like crazy. That's like crazy good.
Right. That's not scoring
They
20 or 25. That's 50.
they trade for Dinwiddie, they
Yeah.
trade for Bridges, they trade for Cam Johnson, and Cam Thomas can't get on the court. Like that is malpractice. I mean, that is horrible. That's horrible.
I agree.
He has to be on the court. And then, so he doesn't get a chance there because Spencer Dinwiddie said this on, I don't remember whose podcast, but he was like, the organization just wanted to make Mikal a star. They wanted to make Mikal a star because they wanted to, one, things sucked because Durant was gone and they wanted to prove that he was good enough, which he wasn't to be that player. Clearly wasn't. and the Nets, fed him the ball too much. And Cam Thomas then got jerked around and just like never got the development he deserved. And that to me, like even beyond now and how they feel about him, sucks. I understand what the Nets are doing. Like they're like, hey, you have no options. I actually understand this more than that. You have no options. You can't go anywhere. Nobody has cap space to spend money. You are stuck in Nets purgatory. We're gonna just say, hey, can you ball out? And then we'll make another decision and not lock into you here long term because we don't quite believe in you, which they've clearly shown. And I get it a little more now than I did then. But I still, if I'm him, like I'm coming back and I'm going to be the baddest motherfucker on the planet and prove everybody wrong. And I would expect that attitude.
And not sign with the Nets when he's up for unrestricted free agency. If I'm him, I'm getting the hell out of there. The way they've been treating him, even if he dominates the next 2 years and helps the young Nets get into the playoffs or playing and like shows that he can play and the fans fall in love with him, he's the leader of the team. If I'm him, I'm out of there. Unless like something major changes over the next 2 years. But he's getting screwed. And it's like, he's still super young. How old is he now? 22, 20,
23, 24, 23 is my guess. 23.
Yeah. So, he still has time and like our clock of young players is still all messed up because every player comes out after 1 year. So like we can't give them 5 years. We have to give them like 7 before we see if they can play or not sometimes. But 23. He's 23. So he clearly can play, but they keep pulling him out. It just makes no sense. I remember my buddy Mike, he's in our fantasy basketball league, he had Cam Thomas and he's like, oh, I got to steal. He's putting up 50, 40 points, this, that, and the other thing. And then like next game, like DNP. He's like, what the fuck is going on? Like what? That's just to the casual fan that's not watching the Nets every day. And he doesn't watch the Nets every day, obviously. And it's just like, he lives in Florida, from New York, but lives in Florida. And it's just like, what is going on with this team? Like, why are they not playing Cam Thomas? He's clearly the best player on the team. I just don't understand. And it makes no sense. And like I said a few minutes ago, nobody plays defense. Nobody cares unless you really want to rip a player apart. And that's it.
Nobody gets analyzed more, not only just on their defense, but on their like assist ratio with minutes on the court, like hands tied behind your back, tongue sticking out, one eye open, like every analytical stat that is imaginable possible has been shed on Cam Thomas. And like, well, he had a 3.2672 pass ratio when he was, sitting for 7 more minutes and he drank the blue Gatorade. But when he had orange Gatorade, it was 4. I was like, just let him play. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Now, I again, if the Nets don't want to give him that 3-year deal, I get it because they don't think he's good enough. Well, then go out there, Cam, and prove them wrong. And like I said, I wouldn't blame him if he never wanted to be part of this organization again, which is also, everybody can put out YouTube videos. The Nets can do culture videos. But at the end of the day, this isn't just the Nets, it's everybody.
Yeah.
This is a business. And they want to make a business decision. And they think it's in the best interest of the future because they are in a full tank rebuild. This is how they want to go and do it. I respect that. I just don't respect how they got here.
Yeah, they're looking at him more as an asset than as a player that can help them, which is unfortunate for Cam. It's just wrong place, wrong time. You know what I mean? It's bad for him because he gets drafted like late in the first, right? And it's, if he gets drafted by another team at those picks, on a good team, maybe he's developed or he's contributing on a really good team. Maybe he's like Michael Porter Jr. You know what I mean? Maybe he's doing something like that. Your guy now, So it's unfair and it sucks. But, the funniest thing was him, getting back at Zach Lowe, who's like the king of the analytics, and everybody just bows down to everything he says on his podcast. And then whoever his podcast partner is, I don't even know. He was saying that like, well, they were reading the things that Cam Thomas was saying back to him and, how they're going back and forth. And then he said, you get double teamed a lot, but, they're double teaming you because you don't pass. It's like, no, that's not why they're double teaming a player. They're double teaming him because he's awesome.
Well, they have no other talent.
Yeah, that's
no one around him.
The stupidest like stretch or like fake response to try to sound smart. It's just like, why these like saturated basketball podcasts out there? It's hard to listen to some of these, So it is what it is. Like, do you, Cam Thomas, get your money, play well, and maybe you'll end up on the Knicks too.
It's only a matter of time, right?
Yes, that's it.
People
That's
get
it.
manipulated there. All right, this has been Bad Weather Fans, episode 276. Don't forget, download, subscribe. We're also on YouTube where you can check out our content. We got great different videos. You can go on there. It's YouTube. There's videos. Good job, Mike. So if you want to see that, go back in the archives. A lot of fun interviews in our past.
Some
Tracy
shorts,
McGrady,
TikTok,
Tracy McGrady, Richard Jefferson,
Richard Johnson,
Richard
too, yeah.
Johnson. No,
Whoever
Dick
that is.
Johnson was not on the Bad Weather Fans podcast.
Dick Johnson.
DJ. All right, Alex, I will talk to you later and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, and I hope this doesn't hurt the chances of signing Mitchell Robinson, but we will see. Mitchell Robinson needs to stay with the Knicks. Okay, good night, Mike. Have a good one.
Good night.